Pope Francis has held Mass in front of 10,000 in the city of Erbil. It marks the high point of his historic trip to Iraq, which is the first ever by a pope. The pontiff has been touring the northern cities of Erbil and Mosul, the one-time stronghold of Islamic State. Much of the region was under IS control just 4 years ago, before liberation by Iraqi and international troops.
Despite Iraq's lockdown to combat rising COVID-19 cases, the crowds couldn't be contained with Pope Francis in town. In Irbil, 10,000 flocked to see him say his last Mass of what he's calling his apostolic journey. Now the time draws near for my return to Rome. But Iraq will always remain with me in my heart. Earlier, the crowds lined his intensely secured motorcade route in Qaraqosh, once home to 55,000 Christians, before they were driven out by the self-proclaimed Islamic State, who burned and ransacked much of the city. Conditions are much better now than before. Everything is not as it used to be, because all the buildings and everything have been reconstructed, but now we are very happy. Reconstructed almost from scratch, this church welcomed back some of the displaced believers who've chosen to return. We trust in God, and together with all people of goodwill, we say no to terrorism and to the manipulation of religion. Francis also visited the heart of what was once IS-controlled Iraq, the city of Mosul, where he offered words and symbols of peace. It is always wrong, he said, to hate, kill, or wage war in God's name.
Journalist Owen Holdaway is in Irbil and joins me now. Owen, many historic and symbolic firsts there for the Pope on his trip to Iraq. What is his message to the people in the country?
I think it essentially sums it up as his last address when he said peace and unity between the different major faiths. And he also really wanted to push forward the message of Jesus' notion of forgiveness, particularly in a country like Iraq, which has suffered such violence and such sectarianism in the past.
The first papal visit ever is, of course, hugely significant for Christians in Iraq. What does it really mean for them, though? Do they expect to see lasting change coming from this?
I mean, I think particularly the visit here in northern Iraq, to Qaraqosh and those sort of areas were very important, because the Christian community were completely devastated when IS took over Mosul and parts of Nineveh. So I think his message to them is the Christians here are here to stay. I mean, more broadly, the visit, although it will have, I think, a good effect on a kind of communitarian and interfaith sort of ground level. Politically, it's not going to disarm the militias. It's not going to stop this. IS is still operational in certain areas of this country, admittedly not in any urban areas, but they still have capacity. So, although it has a strong effect on a cultural on a community level, I don't think it's going to really affect the political situation in Iraq.
The Pope is there to spread a positive message, to call for coexistence, all of that in the midst of a pandemic. What are Iraqis saying about the message he is sending by holding Mass for thousands of people?
I mean, to be honest, the pandemic here has been very much underplayed. As you probably saw, there was very few people wearing masks. There was very little social distancing. The final event at the Francisco football stadium, there's potential to be a super spreading event. Just prior to the visit of the Pope, there was a big spike in coronavirus cases. There's been about almost 14,000 deaths here. So, I mean, it's got the potential to really, really decimate an already very much decimated healthcare system. So, it's got real risk, to be honest, going forward.
And what is security like for the Pope? This is, after all, a volatile region.
Yeah, I mean, I think particularly coming up north, which was the former IS stronghold, going to Mosul and Qaraqosh, ISIS is not operational in any urban centres, but it does have some capacity in the more rural areas. But that being said, the massive level of security, particularly done by the federal government, which secured the area around Mosul and its transport routes then to Qaraqosh and those sort of areas, he's been under a very, very, very tight watch. So, you know, touch wood, nothing's happened, and I think the authorities have dealt with his security here very well.
Owen, hold away. Many thanks.